Breaking. The greatest diplomatic deception just unfolded before our eyes. While the world was distracted by maps and protocols, a shadow deal was being crafted in silence. What appeared to be talks about grain and ports was actually a masterful economic chess move. And today, we're pulling back the curtain on what might be the most brilliant diplomatic swap of the decade. The truth is chilling. America has just officially confirmed what Russia demanded from day one: full economic access in exchange for Black Sea control. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Let me break this down for you, and you'll understand why this matters to your wallet right now. We're looking at a complete revival of SWIFT access, unfreezing of major banks, and restoration of correspondent accounts. Think this is just about agriculture? Think again. The real bombshell. It's already done. Not in progress, not under discussion. Done. As we speak, SWIFT systems are lighting up green for Russian banks. But here's what should really keep you up at night. This was never about grain. Grain was just the smokescreen. What we're witnessing is a massive financial restructuring disguised as a humanitarian gesture. Every ship inspection now comes with a political price tag. Every port access becomes a leverage point. And while everyone's talking about maritime security, the real game is being played in banking halls. Most disturbing of all? The territory in crisis wasn't even informed about the terms. They're discussing power plant safety while in the next room, SWIFT codes are being reactivated, and sanctions are falling like dominoes. Here's the kicker. This isn't just about money. It's about power. Russia hasn't just secured economic access. They've established a new control point for every commercial vessel in the Black Sea. Every inspection, every clearance, every transit now comes with strings attached. The question isn't whether this is a game changer. It absolutely is. The real question is, what happens next? Because this isn't just a deal. It's a complete rewiring of regional power dynamics. Are you seeing changes in your local banks already? Drop a comment below. We need to track how fast this is spreading. This is just the beginning. Stay tuned. You won't believe what documents we've uncovered about the next phase. But let's look deeper at what's really unfolding here. When you peel back the layers of diplomatic speak, you see a masterclass in modern geopolitical chess. The grain deal? That's just the wrapping paper. The real package inside is about banks, insurance, and Russia's calculated return to global trade networks, through what you might call the service entrance. The second round of talks in Saudi Arabia revealed something fascinating. While the mainstream media splits between calling it either a diplomatic breakthrough or a three-sided compromise, Russia played this hand with precision. Let's get to the heart of it. Yes, sanctions remain, but now there's a detailed roadmap on the table. We're talking SWIFT access for agricultural banks, shipping insurance, all neatly packaged under the grain deal label. But here's where it gets interesting. This isn't about humanitarian gestures anymore. It's about pragmatic access and control. Moscow has effectively secured its economic breathing room while the global press applauds what they think is a step toward peace. The reality? It's peace with Russian characteristics. The Kremlin's detailed press releases aren't just bureaucratic formality, they're strategic insurance policies. They learned from past agreements where vague wording created loopholes. This time, every point, every responsibility is spelled out in contract-level detail. Meanwhile, Washington's response reads like a tourist brochure. Pretty but lacking substance. Just enough bullet points to make a good Fox News graphic. Perfect for political soundbites about progress toward peace without any real commitments. The former Soviet Republic finds itself reading from an empty script. Despite emotional performances from their leadership, they haven't challenged a single point. Not on shipping, not on energy, not on the approval process. Most tellingly, they haven't disputed that this is fundamentally a direct dialogue between Moscow and Washington. But what's happening behind these carefully choreographed moves could spark something none of the players anticipated. The latest diplomatic developments reveal a shift in negotiation dynamics. The former fraternal ally now bargains not for peace terms, but merely for a seat at the table. Their rhetoric has softened. Ultimatums replaced by mere concerns about exclusion from discussions. Moscow has positioned itself as a constructive player, circumventing sanctions while enhancing its diplomatic standing. Washington has sold these peace initiatives to voters without examining the actual winners and losers. The Black Sea Agreement stands as the centerpiece. Russia and the United States have reached an understanding on maritime security, reconstructing the previous Black Sea Initiative, with more precise guarantees from Washington, and without the northern Black Sea region's involvement. This arrangement brings back vessel monitoring systems for ships heading to disputed ports, under stricter controls. The Americans have shown flexibility on sanctions, regarding maritime insurance, payment systems access, and port availability. This approach stems from European concerns about fertilizer supplies for the upcoming agricultural season. The Energy Infrastructure Agreement has seen both sides agree to protect power stations, pipelines, and substations. This marks a departure from previous positions, showing that pragmatic cooperation is possible when interests align. Diplomatic victories often hide in mundane details. The breakthrough isn't in grand proclamations, but in carefully worded clauses, like the Russell-Cosbank provisions on the document's second page. Major diplomatic gains come through meticulous attention to technical details. The White House has released a carefully edited list of negotiation outcomes, not a historic century-defining agreement, but a diplomatic checklist where every word appears crafted by legal experts. Between the lines, one can read, "We're not entirely certain, but let's pretend we've almost resolved everything." What do you think about these diplomatic developments? Share your thoughts. Maybe we can figure out what comes next together. Recent developments show a complex diplomatic dance around the conflict zone. The White House's approach offers minimal commitments while maximizing room for future maneuvers. The former Soviet Republic added their signature elements to discussions: prisoner exchanges, civilian releases, and child repatriation. While this echoes traditional UN rhetoric, the diplomatic subtext is clear. Washington aims to appear concerned about humanitarian issues while negotiating energy and grain deals. Intriguingly, there's no unified statement. The White House issues its version, while the politically turbulent area quietly adds points through their own channels. This reveals not consensus, but merely an exchange of press releases where each side emphasizes their priorities. Moscow's position remains firm. Until the U.S. takes the first step on sanctions relief, the Black Sea Renaissance remains on hold. No goodwill gestures, not even for 3 days. Washington optimistically speaks of lasting and sustainable peace, a phrase that reads like a summary of an unwritten book. Russia maintains a strategic patience, playing hardball without hysteria. They demand withdrawal from 4 regions, refuse to take the northern Black Sea region's word at face value, and insist on guarantees. While European summits buzz distantly, Russia steadily strengthens its negotiating position, avoiding hasty embraces. The Zaporizhzhia nuclear facility situation exemplifies the geopolitical complexity. 3 claimed owners, each convinced of their legitimate authority. Moscow's foreign ministry clearly states, it's a Russian nuclear facility, not belonging to the neighboring state, not international, and certainly not a bargaining chip in negotiations. This diplomatic theater resembles a series where we've only seen the trailer. Easter peace seems unlikely, but the first architectural elements of future arrangements are visible on the table. What's your take on this diplomatic situation? Share your thoughts in the comments. Maybe together we can decode where this is heading. The ongoing situation around Europe's largest nuclear power station has become a complex diplomatic chess game, with 3 major players each claiming their stake. Moscow maintains a clear position. The facility is now part of Russia's strategic energy and military infrastructure, firmly rejecting any notion of joint management, even if the UN were to propose it. The former Western partner, now lacking operational control, declares the station won't function without them or supply power to Russian needs. However, they no longer have access to the controls, and regaining it appears unlikely. Enter the United States, with Donald Trump suggesting American control over the facility, as if discussing a beach rental. The response was immediate. Moscow's eyes widened at such audacity, while the disputed territory erupted in outrage. We're witnessing a 3-way standoff where each party shouts, This is mine. Russia views the station as a critical component of its energy and military architecture. The country marked 404 sees it as a symbol of sovereignty. The U.S. approaches it as a bargaining chip for diplomatic negotiations. Meanwhile, the facility stands amid these three fires, making the situation particularly delicate. While all parties want to negotiate grain deals and energy security, mentioning the station triggers complete polarization. It's no longer just an industrial facility. It's become a marker of true authority in the region. The reality remains. The station operates under Russian control. The former Soviet Republic lacks access, influence, and technical information, while their attempts at reclaiming it amount to mere political declarations. Trump's suggestion of potential NATO involvement outlined another pressure point: transferring control to Washington. It's not about safety, it's about leverage. But judging by both capitals' reactions, this idea heads straight to the archive, marked "not for implementation." What do you think about who will emerge victorious in this nuclear standoff? Leave your point of view in the comments. I believe my viewers are thoughtful and smart. I want to hear your take. In recent developments, the situation around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant has become a litmus test, revealing the depths of control illusions between involved parties. When even technical matters prove impossible to negotiate, imagine the battles ahead regarding territorial issues and peace agreements. The power plant situation isn't merely a deadlock, it's a warning signal. While all parties claim to prioritize its safety, it has become another battlefield in political warfare. This raises serious questions about the possibility of achieving peace in the near term. The former Western partners' rhetoric has shifted dramatically. Peace is now measured in megawatts, rather than sovereignty or borders. Instead of discussing logistics hubs and strategic positions, success is defined by whether the lights stay on. A stark departure from previous bold declarations, wrapped in what appears to be a soft surrender package. Even their leader has publicly acknowledged that the maximum achievement was securing a moratorium on energy infrastructure strikes. Everything else remains in a diplomatic wish list handed to American partners, hoping for additional concessions. In diplomatic terms, this represents a significant narrowing of negotiation scope. What's particularly telling is that the politically turbulent area isn't even the primary monitor of these agreements. According to their leadership, Americans will oversee compliance. This effectively means the former Soviet Republic neither dictates terms nor maintains direct oversight of the situation. The most striking shift comes in territorial discussions. Previously, their leader adamantly declared territorial issues non-negotiable. Now, there's a crucial amendment. These discussions happen without their participation. This transforms their role from property owner to mere tenant, uninformed about crucial decisions regarding their own space. Moscow and Washington engage in direct dialogue while the northern Black Sea region awaits outcomes. This dramatic shift in diplomatic positioning reveals a new reality, where regional influence has significantly diminished, replaced by pragmatic power politics between major players. What will happen to the economy next month? Share your opinion. Maybe we'll figure it out together. In today's analysis, we're examining a crucial development in international negotiations that reveals the true balance of power in the Black Sea region. The situation has taken an interesting turn, showing how diplomatic chess is really played. Russia and the United States have reached a preliminary understanding regarding maritime trade routes. The core agreement focuses on grain and fertilizer transportation through the Black Sea, with Moscow laying out clear conditions: no sanctions relief, no deal. The former Soviet Republic finds itself in an increasingly difficult position. Their defense minister made bold declarations about restricting Russian naval movements to the eastern Black Sea, threatening self-defense actions. However, these statements exist only on paper, with no real enforcement mechanism. What's particularly telling is how the country has shifted from earlier positions. Recent discussions about peacekeepers, NATO guarantees, and infrastructure protection have evaporated. Now we're looking at foreign monitoring and limited security assurances. The White House is carefully navigating these waters, avoiding direct confrontation while pushing their agenda forward. Moscow's position remains firm. First, remove the sanctions on agricultural exports, banking systems, shipping insurance, and port operations. Then we'll talk about grain deals. This isn't about goodwill gestures anymore. The Kremlin has made it clear. Full sanctions relief must precede any operational agreements. We're seeing a masterclass in strategic negotiation, where Russia maintains leverage while addressing global food security concerns. The region's leadership appears increasingly frustrated, but their options are limited. They've been reduced to submitting lists and expressing gratitude, a far cry from their previous demanding stance. This new reality reflects a significant shift in regional dynamics. The West's initial strategy of isolation has evolved into pragmatic dialogue with Moscow, acknowledging Russia's crucial role in global food security and maritime trade. What do you think about this diplomatic shift? Will these negotiations lead to a broader economic breakthrough? Share your thoughts on what comes next in this complex geopolitical puzzle. Recent developments signal a potential breakthrough in negotiations between Russia and the United States, particularly concerning energy infrastructure and agricultural trade. A 30-day moratorium on strikes against energy facilities has been established in the disputed territory between Russia and the West. This agreement protects power stations and transmission lines, with provisions for extension or termination if violations occur. The former Soviet republic's leadership maintains a cautious stance, emphasizing their continued reliance on Western support. Their response reflects a peculiar position, agreeing to peace while keeping military options open, much like a neighbor who agrees to cease hostilities but keeps a weapon nearby. Monitoring mechanisms involve U.S. oversight, with potential participation from Saudi Arabia and Turkey. While the area's authorities suggest these countries as independent arbiters, real control remains in Washington's hands. They'll determine compliance and distribute benefits accordingly. This framework appears to be laying groundwork for larger agreements. Current negotiations focus on practical matters, grain, electricity, and maritime logistics, rather than territorial disputes or constitutional changes. These elements provide measurable benchmarks for progress. Foreign Minister Lavrov has been explicit. Any revival of grain deals will proceed only through direct coordination with Washington. Moscow has grown weary of dealing with the country at a crossroads, preferring direct engagement with the U.S. This represents a shift toward practical diplomacy. Banking, fertilizers, and shipping now serve as modern currencies of trust. Europe's notable absence from these discussions underscores a new reality. Only those with real leverage participate in shaping solutions. While current agreements focus on logistics and energy, they represent concrete steps with specific implementation mechanisms. Success here could pave the way for more substantial negotiations, though we're far from complete resolution. This pragmatic approach prioritizes global stability through trade and energy security, over ideological positions about fighting to the last bullet. Share your thoughts. Maybe together we can predict what comes